Hi, Romesh Shivastu here, Editor-in-Chief, Site Plus. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Please do subscribe this for the HR news, for HR updates and conversation with the top CHROs. In continuation of the theme HR trends for 2023, today we have one of the world's renowned thought leader, Mr. Tom Haak. He is founder and director of the HR Trend Institute. Tom is joining us from the Amsterdam, Netherlands. So, Tom, you are welcome to the Sites Plus.
Nice to meet you.
Tom, if you look at the 2022, it has been the year of disruptions. There have been plenty of changes. If we talk about the workplace, and workforce, and the digital adaptation has also taken a quantum leap, and that is across the organization and industry. So, in such a scenario, how do we foresee the HR trends for 2023?
And I think if I look at 2022, then we wrote about the trends, and the theme for that year was from adaptation to transformation, and we would hoped to see some real transformations. I think, well, we've seen some, but we can see a lot more, I would say. And we have also seen some organizations moving back to old practices. And so transformation is still in the air. For 2023, we have labeled our trends breaking boundaries. I think to really transform, you have to break some boundaries. And we hope, you could say it's hope, but also an expectation that we will see more of that. And there's a lot to say. I think it's very important to realize a couple of things, if you allow me. One is, of course, we have difficult situations in many parts of the world. Yes, that has to do with war, but it also has to do with increasing prices. It has to do with inflation, and so one important element, and that's an important trend, is that people are expecting their organizations to help them, to support them, not only, of course, in the workspace, but also wider. Support them financially, support them in their well-being in other areas as well. That's a short-term, urgent issue. I think that's very important, and there are expectations, but we will have to see. The second element, and that's also related to 2022, and we've labeled that as the knowledge worker are not the center of the universe. And sometimes if we have these type of discussions, and I am in conferences, it seems as if the world is only knowledge workers. And we talk about hybrid working, and we talk about happiness, and we talk about all those type of things. But if we look at the build up of the workforce, well, many people work in industry sectors and in jobs that are not knowledge workers. And many people work in manufacturing, many people work in transportation, many people work in retail, many people work in healthcare, many people work in the military. All those type of jobs, people working in the front, we should not forget those people. So I think that's also important for 2023, that we make sure we have to focus on the right people, and not only the people close to us and the people in our bubble. So I think that's an important element I would like to mention now as well.
Tom, last year you predicted about the end of employment 2022, and which is becoming true now. The employees are questioning about their priorities and evaluating the personal pros and cons of their employment. They want more independence, more flexibility, and they're looking for the more sense of fulfillment in the employment. So now, how do you anticipate the workforce in 2023?
So I think, as you say, the end of the employee, of course, that's a big statement, but it's in fact about the emancipation of the employees. And many people don't want to be called employee. And I don't know how it is in India, but here we still hear a lot of stories about how can we keep the people as long as possible. or we talk about our employees as if we own them still. And that is changing. And we see that in several ways. We see people don't take it any longer, partly. And on our 2023 list is also the trend, the increasing importance of the unions, and workforce representation in work councils, etc. That's part of that trend. People say, well, employee, you cannot do that. Employer, you cannot do that. And not only in the traditional areas, where there are strikes, etc., but also in the tech industry. Employees of big companies like employees of Amazon, employees of Google, who say, hey, employer, and we have seen it recently, of course, in the Twitter organization. You cannot do with people everything you want. Elon Musk thinks that, but it's not true. People don't take it any longer. So there is these are signs. There are other signs. There are movements called, for example, the anti-work movement. Those are people saying, well, why have we made work so important in our lives? Why is that? Let's make that a little bit less important. And of course, that's not a trend, but it's something that happened the last year. And that was the whole quiet quitting movement. But that's also related to that. People say, well, you can treat me as an employee, but if you treat me as an employee, I will behave as one. I will work from 9 to 5:30. I will do exactly as you assign me, but nothing extra. So all these signs, I think, will be, the question is, how are organizations going to deal with that? Are they really treating employees more as co-workers, as co-creators on an equal level? And I think that is happening, but it will need to happen a lot more.
And nothing much difference here in India. We see a lot of cases of the moonlighting and some of the employees, in especially if we talk about the IT industry and tech
Yeah.
industry. So we have seen a lot of cases of the moonlighting. They are trying to follow their passion and along with the job, some dual employment. A lot of things are happening here as well in India. So if you see, you were talking about the one of the trend that. The menopause and the
Yeah.
menstrual cycle somewhere. So in India also, though this is not legitimated, but the bill I think that was brought in 2018. Still,
Yeah.
it is not legitimated, but there is awareness as well, and the companies they're accepting this.
Actually, it's a super important point.
Correct.
And last week I was talking in a conference about the employee experience and moments that matter. And we tend, if we describe the employee experience and moments that matter, we tend to focus on happy things. The first day at work and the promotion and you know that. But for, menopause and menstruation, those are important moments that matter for people. Yes, especially for, of course, for the female part of the workforce. And in most in my country, in other, still it's, well, we don't like to talk about it. We make, sometimes even worse, we make jokes about it. And we see now, yeah, that it is changing, and I'm glad that you recognize that as well in India. But it needs a lot more attention. It's continuous attention, and the proportion, for example, of females older than 50 in the workforce is increasing everywhere. Yes, and so we cannot say, well, yeah, we cannot talk about it. We don't, yeah, we don't make arrangements to really support and help you. So I think it's a very important point, and we will see a lot more attention to those two
The acceptance is
subjects.
increasing here in India as well. And yesterday, when I published the news about a company that has started the menstrual leave, they started the policy, menstrual leave policy there. There are various companies, those
Yeah,
I think they're opting this kind of the policy. Another there are also two points are here. One, even the some of the if we talk about the women leaders, their point is that not to go for the menstrual leave because that can be considered as some of the weakness for the female employees, and that may affect and their hiring that may affect some of the
Yeah.
promotions. So how do you see? What is your point on this?
Well, I think of course it's an important point, but in the end, we have to recognize differences, and this, of course, is one type of differences. But we have been talking a long time about the need for personalization, and personalization is: are you willing and able to take individual differences between people, but not only the differences, but also the wishes, the needs, the capabilities of people? Are you willing to take those into account? And that's going on. So we cannot ignore that, and we cannot say, yeah, but everything, men and women should be totally equal, but because otherwise we will treat women as weak. I don't think that's the way to go. But I recognize it. But I think we are on an unstoppable train of personalization, but also of more empathy to people, the individual circumstances of people, taking that into account. And we especially sometimes, unfortunately, you see that female leaders are not the biggest advocates. They say, yeah, but I'm a female leader. I'm here because I'm super good, not because I'm female. And that's right. But I would hope that female leaders also have more sympathy for the female part of the workforce and don't ignore that. So let's hope that.
So yeah, of course. So I think that is also, this would be also one of the trend in coming year, and there will be more acceptance among the organizations for this. Tom, I was also going through some of your thoughts on this, that how the organizations are keeping on first and the employees on second. So this thought, I think, if you are looking for the employee experience, if you are looking for the empathy, then how do you see in 2023? Do you see there would be any change into this?
I don't know. Let's say it's a wish, but I don't know whether we really see that. I think, and many organizations still are struggling to really put the people first. I think that's many organizations say it, people first, but if you look at the way they are acting, they say organization first. Yes. And people sense that. And uh, if we really apply design thinking principles in the organizational domain, and then the starting point is the people and working with the people to design their experience. So that's also if we talk about the employee experience, it sometimes looks as if we design it for the people, but it should be designed with the people because they are the experts in this area. So it should be a co-creation and not an organization saying, okay, you want an experience, we'll give you an experience. Yes. But so it's slowly coming, but it also requires certain attitudes and skills of the HR people in the organization. They should be the you could say the people who are really directing these processes, and not only be his master's voice and try to be, let's say, voice the wishes of management, but really be more the voice of the people in the workforce.
Another now, Tom, as I understand that the metaverse is a great idea, but it is on the early stages of its development. So, how do you foresee that this would be used in HR in 2023, and what are the HR functions that may start the use of metaverse in 2023?
Yeah. So I think, of course, the metaverse is partly a great unknown. Huh? What is it exactly? How is it going to work? Uh, what we described is saying, well, at least VR, which has been around for quite a while, but the prices are coming down. It's becoming more a commodity. So using VR is a good first step into the metaverse, learning how to work in the metaverse. And that can be in many areas of HR, which we already see today. We see it in, of course, in, you could say, elements like in recruiting, the virtual job experience, giving people a real job experience using VR, not just telling what it is, but that people can experience what it is to work in an organization. Then moving into testing, using VR to put people in simulations where you can test their skills, but also maybe test their personality. Of course, training is an obvious area, especially I've seen examples in the oil and gas industry where people have to be trained in really dangerous situation. What do you do in a dangerous situation? Fire on an oil rig, for example. Well, then with VR, you can really simulate that and train people how to act in those situations. We've also seen and starting to see real examples of creating meetings using VR. So really creating, and that's, you could say, creating the meeting metaverse, and where people can interact a lot more better than they do today. The big advantages are, one of the big advantages is that it helps enormously, in my opinion, with diversity. If we, because in the metaverse, of course, we can create avatars, which are not necessarily the total representation of the people. You can say there's an ethical element here, but people can improve themselves in the metaverse. And for example, so people with, for example, people with certain disabilities, or people, they can be different people in the metaverse. And we can also combine, create new people in the metaverse. And I think that's an enormous advantage. We have to look at the ethical elements, as I said. And we have discussions today already, because you could say, hey, Tom was in a meeting, but he appeared as a woman. Is that something we want? So we have to discuss it. So I think there are enormous opportunities to really create a more equal playing field for people in the metaverse. But of course, there are many other advantages as well. Yeah.
Tom, the work-life balance is the top priority as of now for every individual. And you look so fit and dynamic at this age. So how do you manage the work-life balance?
Now, it's not. It's super simple. The rules are sleep well. Yeah. So I always sleep well. I don't drink. I don't eat meat, and I walk every day at least 5 to 10 kilometers in a week. So
Great.
that's those are the keys, and of course you have to be lucky as well. So
Right.
yeah, that's unfortunate, but you have to be lucky. Well, you can't, and yeah, some people are lucky, and I look, yeah, I'm very glad I'm lucky. Some people are not so lucky.
Absolutely. You see, Tom, what we have seen in last 2 3 years, the role of CHR that has also evolved a lot. Some of the ESG that has been also included into
Yeah,
the portfolio of the HR. So, how do you see the role of CHRs in 2023? What the more roles can be added in their portfolios?
I think that the role of HR is expanding all the time. So I think that's one thing. So we already said earlier, you let's not put that all in one person. So we need to split the function. I think that's important, because otherwise we add roles and we add roles, and then HR becomes, well, overworked, which probably they are already. Yes, but one of those roles is being not only the advocate of the people, which we already discussed, but you could say also in a way being the advocate of society and the advocate of the globe. Saying, hey, organization, We not only have to take care of the people in the workforce, but we have to take care of our societies, and we have to take care of the world. And how can we do that? And how can we work not only in our organization, but in partnerships with in our ecosystem, with our suppliers, with so we should and we can work together to make the world a better place. And I think that's typically an area where HR can and should play a role, and it fits very nicely with our theme, breaking boundaries. Break the boundaries and break out of the organization. So I think that the future is in that way bright, but we have to take those roles. And we cannot hide and say, well, yeah, I'm only here for my organization, and because then it's not going to work.
So finally, any concluding remark, any what we didn't discuss here, and that is important if you like to share.
So no, I think it's important always to realize that we are not only observers, but that we are actors. So we can influence the future. And so we can describe the trends and say, oh, well, what's happening? But luckily, we can influence it. So partly, we determine the trends, and that's so powerful. So we are not observers, we're not bystanders, but we are real actors, not only in the organizations, but in as I said, in our societies and in the world. And I think that's a super good role to play. So I'm in that way very positive.
Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us and for the conversation.
All right. Thank you for having me again. Bye-bye.